has been telling the world that this is an independent judiciary, including the Prime Minister. But yet, the judges stopped or refrained from taking action against him. Now, not only him, you have the PKR Deputy President, which is Tony Kwok. You have the guy in Ipoh. I think I read his Twitter, and so forth. So why didn't they, the judiciary, take contempt proceedings against him at that point in time? Or, for that matter, in future, because if you don't take action against this bloody, sorry for saying that, if you don't take action for contempt against these people, later on, you see the judiciary will be affected. I can tell you that much. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. First point, yeah? You are right. Once the High Court called for the defense, in fact, the High Court said in no uncertain terms, the evidence of Saiful was extremely credible. He examined it point by point. When the defense is called, normally, if you do not give a statement from the witness box, your case is so weakened. But Anwar called two experts. Both are Australian. One is completely irrelevant. The other, somebody by the name of Brian McDonald, Dr. Brian McDonald, who the Court of Appeal described as armchair expert. Both of them, armchair, because they have got no clinical work at the time when they give evidence, whereas our DNA expert, day in, day out, they do nothing but DNA. Okay. They offered, Brian McDonald was rejected in his own country in 3 cases. His own court in Australia described him as unreliable and non-credible. But our defense counsel called him to give evidence in the Malaysian court. He was also rejected in a Brunei court. His evidence was rejected. If you ask me whether a High Court judge should convict him or not, the answer is yes. That's the reason why the Court of Appeal convicted him, reversed very easily, because the only reason the High Court, I do not know why the High Court judge went to that extent, was this. If you imagine this is a plastic bag, it's like a holding bag. The exhibit, 12 exhibits were put inside here. Each one of the exhibit is in a tamper-proof bottle, sealed, dimetrai. 12 of them. When the doctor gave to the investigating officer, I think DSP Judy Pereira. Judy Pereira is not a woman, he's a man. Okay? So we call him Jude in order to avoid confusion. So when he gave to the investigating officer brought it back to the office, and he said, I follow IGSO. IGSO is Inspector General Standing Orders, where every exhibit must be separately wrapped in an envelope. So he said, what I did was, this is not a seal, yeah? Individual one are sealed, dalam, yeah? He said, I could have opened this gum, you can wrap it open and seal it back. It's just gum. You can do it. It is a facility like that. I've got a bag here, a new one, you can see it. But he said, I didn't do that. I cut it here. I cut it and I left the part that is cut dangling for everybody to see, because it is done in the open. I took out the 12 bottles, I individually wrapped them in 12 separate envelopes before I sent them to the chemist. The judge said, in spite of overwhelming evidence, the individual bottles were in fact sealed. The judge said there could be a possibility of tampering. Now, following the judge's opinion, let's say there is tampering. Tampering is one thing. How do you answer Anwar's sperm inside the bottle? So he did not enter into that issue. So whatever you call it tampering, there is no tampering, yeah? Because chemist said no tampering, the doctor said no tampering, the IO said, what do you mean by tampering? I didn't tamper, because if I don't do it, I can be actually taken action against me by the Inspector General. Now, You remember I told you about the CSI team. The CSI team, when they went, every individual item, because they are police officers, they know what they're doing, they put it in a separate envelope. So he doesn't have to redo it. So he took straight away from the CSI team, sent to the second case. So on that basis alone, the High Court was terribly wrong. Yeah, to have acquitted. So the Court of Appeal and Federal Court was squarely right in reversing that acquittal. Your second question is interesting. He made political speech everywhere. Okay? Now, in the Federal Court, he lambasted, as you said, the Federal Court. It is definitely contempt, because he said, you have been given a chance to show honesty and things like that, but you fail to take that chance. And instead, you have become part and parcel of the conspiracy. That's a serious allegation. So I was about to stand up when the Chief Justice noticed that I was about to stand up to complain. The Chief Justice on his own said, look, what is the relevance? I want you to mitigate, not to give a speech. But he behaved like as though he was deaf. He kept on speaking like macam mana, train tak boleh stop. So that's when the judges said, this is nonsense. We're taking an adjournment. We're coming back with the decision of how many years you ought to suffer for this crime. So they didn't run away. The Chief Justice was explaining today, they didn't run away from their job. They just didn't want to hear this nonsense. Now, squarely answering a question, is it contempt? The answer is yes. Could they have taken contempt procedures straight away there and then? Yes. But I think they did not, because they didn't want to distract the matter. They didn't want people, especially the world, because the world opinion is sometimes quite important, to think that we overkill him. Okay, now, this is also interesting because somewhere in the middle of the proceeding in the Federal Court, Anwar made a statement in some blog. He said something to the effect of this: if I have said I'm not going to contest in any election, perhaps they will acquit me. That is contemptuous, because he's saying the court and the government, led by Datuk Seri Najib, is one and the same thing. It is a conspiracy to fix it. I stood up and complained, and I said, if you read this is ridiculous. And my counterpart is Datuk Sri Ram. In Datuk Sri Ram, the issue was this. I said, look, Datuk Sri Ram, through his wife called Chandra Sri Ram, has taken contempt proceeding against Mari Herbert many years ago, where I defended Mari Herbert, who was Far Eastern Economic Review punya journalist. What did Mari Herbert do? Mari Herbert merely said, cases macam ni, where Chandra Sri Ram said, complain about ISKL because the son didn't get into the debating team. Itu je. Sued the school. So Mari Herbert said, if parents sue the school like this, the premium of insurance for international school will go up. And then the fees will go up. That's all he said. Mari Herbert was convicted. In spite of our best effort, convicted and sent for 6 weeks imprisonment. Because they kata, you put a pressure to the court, you therefore scandalize the court. You compare what Anwar said, it's a lot worse. Okay? So it's a question of discretion. Maybe you're right, this is perhaps the right time for me to write to the AG and ask him for his opinion whether that incident, the two incidents, whether we should bring it up any further. I hope I've answered your question. Okay.